obviously in this room obviously mentioned my mother. She actually gave me the opportunity to have life. That was brought me into this world and has parented me. But also Todd Stewart, that he's given me the opportunity to be a head football coach at a place that I quite frankly dreamed about being a head coach at. I was here in 2010, as many of you do know. I worked for Willie Taggart. Willie and I go back to 2006, 2007, where we both worked under Jim Harbaugh, certainly a name that's familiar around these parts, son of Jack. And Willie and I developed a great relationship and friendship. And when he had the opportunity to be the head football coach at Western Kentucky, this program was in a whole lot different shape than it is now. But with that being said, I fell in love with a community. I fell in love with a campus. And most importantly, I fell in love with the recruiting network that we have at the disposal within 6 hours of driving. And Todd mentioned that every single day that we're building a program at Western Kentucky with our football program that is set up to achieve the goals that we've laid out for our program. And a lot of you have heard the moniker, The Pursuit. I think about just even the Rotary Club and what it stands for, and certainly a big part of our inalienable rights as United States citizens. We have the pursuit, right, of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So too for us is the pursuit of our 5 goals. 5 goals that we have: graduate every player. Important that our players are leaving Western Kentucky ready to attack the world with tools in place to help them to actually earn a living for their families and provide. Number 2 is that we're going to serve. We're going to be a part of serving the community just like the Rotary does and other organizations in this community. I've been blown away by this community and all the service that you see. Number 3 is we want to win conference championships, and we want to win the Conference USA. And that pursuit has been going on. We're thinking about that every day. And then the 4th one that we talk about all the time is that we want the pursuit of defeating a Power 5 conference team every single year. And Todd mentioned Wisconsin, not necessarily being, an ideal opening opponent. I want to personally thank Todd for brokering that deal. I think that's an unbelievable opportunity for our program. Our players, myself as the head coach, I've never backed down from a challenge. I've never thought of this team as a team that's going to cower from the big dogs in college football. We're going there with the opportunity to throw haymakers. All right, that's what we keep talking to our players. You got to put yourself in a frame of mind that you're going down there to throw haymakers, and then we'll see what happens. But we're going down there swinging a big stick, and we're excited about what we're capable of doing as a football team. The last part of the pursuit is that we want to win a New Year's Six bowl game. We want to win a Cotton Bowl, a Fiesta Bowl, an Orange Bowl, a Sugar Bowl, one of those bowls. And Todd mentioned that the foundation is being laid day by day. This program has been in a great position for half of the last decade, but a lot of that was due in part to the incredible recruiting efforts of Coach Taggart and his staff. And looking around at even Steve Ayers and his son, Blake, and those players that came around and endured the tough times. Right now, we're in a position where we have great facilities. We have a culture of winning. We've got an athletic director that believes in the advancement of football and taking it to places it's never been before. And a lot of that is due to the people that came before us. And what a better year to think about where we're heading and the pursuit of our goals than to look back at the last 99 football teams that have come before us at Western Kentucky. We have the privilege and the honor as the 2018 WKU football team to represent WKU, this great university, as the 100th team in the history of the program. That's an incredible honor. It's a privilege, but it's also an incredible responsibility, and it's one that we take very, very seriously. Really excited about starting up there at Madison, Wisconsin, like I mentioned. We're excited about the challenge. I'll tell you an update of where we're at coming through camp. We broke camp yesterday, and there's been a tradition that's gone on for 7-8 years in the WKU locker room and during meetings, where during training camp, the players keep saying, kind of muttering under their breath a little bit, we're going. And last year I had no idea what they were talking about. I didn't know what they meant by saying we're going. Well, I had planned a month ago that we were going to have a fake news practice yesterday to culminate practice at training camp. And instead, we had a pool party as a football team. Well, that 7-year tradition was that we're going to the pool or we're going to the water park. So when I told the team that we're actually going, they absolutely lost their minds. And it was pandemonium. And it was like winning the Game 7 of the World Series. We had guys jumping up and down, water bottles. And what I'm excited about is that shows that this team loves each other. This team is learning to grow as a unit that is thinking about the big we, meaning their teammates, and the overall operation of the football program is bigger than just their own individual goals. And that's happening before our very eyes. The relationships that are being developed is happening before our very eyes. And as Todd mentioned, we have a very young football team, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. We know that offensive line play was a challenge last year. I love the offensive linemen that we have coming up, but in reality, 4 of those 5 starters were not starters to begin the season last year. But what I do love about them is that they're guys that want to play physically, they want to come off the football, and they're being led by one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, TJ Woods, that we were able to hire in this offseason, who was formerly the O-line coach at both Wisconsin, Utah State, and Oregon State. So he brings Power 5 acumen to the O-line room, which has been big. At quarterback, we're replacing an NFL player in Mike White, who had a tremendous year last year, ended up, in some of the statistical categories, having one of the best careers, certainly over a 2-year period of time in the history of college football. But Drew Eccles inherits that position, and Drew is the guy that I'm really excited to watch play. He's going to be a different style of quarterback than Mike was, just so you can be aware of that. Drew is going to extend plays with his feet, and when you do have a deficiency of experience and depth at the offensive line position, I think it's paramount that the quarterback can get us multiple first downs a game with his legs. And that's who Drew can be for us. He also can throw the football really well. And he's a player that has stuck it out. This is his 5th year. He's a 5th-year senior. And he has been dedicated to this program like no other player, I think, that has come through Western Kentucky over the course of the last 5 years. I think we have a really exciting young running back crew. We got 2 incoming true freshman running backs that are they're going to get their college football taste in Madison, Wisconsin for the first time. Garland LaFrance, who was the fastest player in the entire country, running the 5.10 short shuttle, was a Power 5 commit to Texas Tech, and we were able to flip his commitment. He's out in New Orleans, Louisiana, and that was a big coup for us as a staff, and he's been as advertised, if not better. He's just a little bit undersized at this point in time, but he is quick and he is dynamic. Kind of the thunder and lightning combination. Garland is lightning, and thunder is a kid named Gino Appleberry that's also an incoming freshman. Same high school as Cam Newton out of Atlanta, Georgia, Westlake High School. Gino Appleberry's had a great camp, and he's your in-between the tackles, downhill runner. Reminds me a lot of Bobby Rainey, who's from a similar area. And I think that he's got some of the ability to be that every down running back that we're looking for. Josh Samuels, another freshman running back. He actually came in last year's recruiting class, but got reclassified as a freshman this year due to multiple transfers as a high school student. And he looks to be probably our starter going into that game with Marquez Trigg and DeAndre Furby, providing great depth and experience and understanding of our offensive scheme. So we're going to be better in the running game, and it has a lot to do with the offensive line development, the quarterback is a viable runner, and then having some young running backs that I think are really exciting that you guys are going to really like watching for years to come. Receiving core is an area that we have a lot of experience returning. Basically, we have 3 part-time, if not full-time starters coming back. Lucky Jackson's become a leader of our offense. He caught the first big touchdown pass of the year against Eastern Kentucky and had a very good season. He's solidified himself as our leader in that clubhouse as receivers. Quinn Jernigan is another big receiver. We're going to go to bat really with our starting 3 receivers and our tight end. Each one of them is anywhere between 6'1" and 6'4", and go anywhere from 190 to 240. So we're going to have some big targets on the perimeter. I think that's going to be fun for us to exploit some mismatches, especially when we get into Conference USA play, where we'll see some smaller defensive backs. Defensively, I think that's going to be the team, the side of the football early on in the year that's going to have a significant leadership role because of the experience coming back on defense. Coach Clayton White, our defensive coordinator, has done an outstanding job, and we've done a very good job recruiting players. And I also think we have a lot more returning depth. There's juniors and seniors on the defensive side of the ball. Our safety position is a strength. Drell Green is a returning senior starter, and then Devin Key from Lexington, Kentucky is an outstanding player. He's going to have a great year. He was one of the first freshmen in school history to hover around the 100-yard or 100 tackle mark as a freshman last year. So he'll be a sophomore. Linebacker-wise, we were just voted our captains, and you'll be the first to hear about who we voted as captains. 2 Kentucky boys are going to be our captains. One from right in our backyard, from Bowling Green High School, is Ben Holt. Ben has done an unbelievable job, and when you watch Ben play, he plays exactly like I want our team to play this year, and that's with a humongous chip on our shoulder and looking to prove everybody wrong. And that's who Ben is. He's got the biggest chip on his shoulder, and he's really been maturing as a football player. The other captain that was voted is outside at the corner position is Dre Ferris, and he's from Shelbyville, Kentucky, outside of Louisville, Martha Lane Collins High School. He is a senior, one of our few senior starters, but he's going to be a really good player for us. And actually, at one point in the season last year, led the nation in passes defensed, and passes broken up. The other linebacker's position is Messiah White, another Shelbyville, Martha Lane College guy. He's improved, and he's going to platoon with Eli Brown, transfer from Warren East High School, started 5-6 games in the SEC last year at the school that's north and east of here a little bit. And he is happy to be a Hilltopper. He is a proud Hilltopper, and he is glad to be wearing red, I'll tell you that. And we sure are happy to have Eli Brown. He runs great. He's a great teammate. I had a meeting with him today, and he just had a smile on his face that he's got a chance to play in front of the town that he loves, that helped form who he is today. And so we got a really deep group of linebackers. Defensive line-wise, that was a depth issue for us last year. Right now we're about 5 deep at defensive end. We're about 7 deep at defensive tackle. So as you can see, we're a lot deeper on the defensive side of the ball, a lot more experience on the defensive side of the ball. And I think when things come together with the leadership that we have on defense, this could be one of the best defenses this school's seen. We've got to put that together, and we've got a great challenge the first game of the season. We're going against one of the best running backs maybe in the history of college football as a freshman. He's going to be hard to tackle, but we got to use all 11 guys to find a way to get him to the ground. He's going to be a really difficult challenge, facing against 5 returning starting offensive linemen that were on the cover of Sports Illustrated about a week ago. So we're excited for the challenge. But you might ask, what can you do for us? Come to those games. Come to those games. Support us. Like Coach Stansbury said a year and a ago, there's going to be a time where you can't get your hand on the tickets. That's going to be the case here, and you know that. I think everybody here knows that this program has already been to great places, just like our basketball program has been. But what we're doing from a recruiting standpoint, you win with players. You win with people. And we brought in some incredible pieces. We're going to continue to bring even better pieces in every single year. And rising tides raise all ships, and that's what we're going to do. So come and fill the house, pack the house for us as we start out home game September 8th. And hopefully some of you will be making that beautiful trip up there to Madison, Wisconsin. Like I said, we're going up there with the opportunity to play against the best with a massive chip on our shoulder. So with that, I'm excited for 2018. It's going to be a great season. 100 years of top of football. We're excited to attack this. And I'm privileged and honored to be able to represent you guys as the head football coach here at Western Kentucky. I'd love to open it up for questions if anybody has any questions about our team.
Mike, you want to tell a little bit of the story of Eli Brown, why he's here? For that deal?
Yeah, question was on Eli Brown and why he's here. You know, Eli's such an interesting young man. We've learned a lot more about his story, even beyond what's been reported in the media. Eli spent time in Jamaica. He spent time in Canada. He spent time, obviously, in Kentucky, really from Miami originally. But because of the situations of his life growing up, he saw a lot by the time he was 11, 12 years old. And the area that really formed who he is and what he's talked about is Bowling Green. The teachers that believed in him. He was self-admittedly way behind the 8 ball academically when he came to Bowling Green because of really kind of living out of a car over the course of his first 11 years of life. He's in a situation where he has close family members that are needing help, both in a parental role to help provide for them and also to look out for them. And that was a really challenging piece for him to accomplish all the way from Lexington. I think the other thing too is that I think Eli was looking for a culture and an environment, which is really what we're all about, and that's the culture of loving your teammates and being about each other. And he has found that here, and I think that's been a big part of his story. Special teams, yeah, that's a pretty important piece there. At punter, we lost Jake Collins, who's has pursued academic opportunities as a grad transfer up at Northwestern. Awesome young man, leaves with a Western Kentucky degree. But I'll tell you what, that created a great opportunity for what I believe to be an NFL leg at punter in Alex Ranella. We're going to be a little bit different. Jake Collins as a punter was a directional punter, a rugby style punter, which means you start jogging to one side or the other and you try to pin them to the sideline and not allow them to return. Alex Ranella is a guy that can put the ball on a 4.7 hang time at 48 to 52 yards deep. Now, with that being said, he's got to find his consistency, and this will be the first time he's punted really live in a game. So that's going to be, in Madison, Wisconsin, it's going to be a different challenge for him. But he's at a great camp. Plays kicking duties. Ryan Nuss, who won the Middle Tennessee game last year, he's found a lot of confidence. Over the course of the offseason, took a lot of confidence from that middle game, and we've recreated game-winning scenarios in practice, and so far he's been 100% in front of his teammates with conditioning on the line, which, as you can imagine, is probably even more pressure than a game. So Ryan Nuss has done a great job, and then from a short snapping standpoint and long snapping standpoint, Ben Reeder is a true sophomore returning that we brought in as a short snapper and long snapper. One thing that I mentioned was our defensive depth. We feel like we have three deep at almost every skill position on defense. So a majority of our special teams will be played by defensive players, which is not a bad thing. It's a really good thing because we have athleticism, speed. We have guys that are hungry to get on the field. And we talk about, I've told the team that every season you go into a year, there's 88 starting positions open for grabs. All right? There's obviously 22 starting positions on offense, and then there's 66 starting positions available on special teams. 6 different phases, 11 players. And so with that many opportunities available, maybe even our third or fourth team safety, he might be able to be the starting guy and kickoff return. And that's what we're going to be able to do, is get some of our best players that haven't really cracked the 2D and use them on special teams. And that's where recruiting really comes into play, is when you see that with the depth of special teams. Mike?
Injuries from last year, how have they recovered and are they going to be playing?
Yeah, we ended up having 24 surgeries last year, either in season or postseason. Dr. Shaitu Malambody is one of the best in the business, but he was way too busy last year. He, having to do 24 orthoscopic surgeries, including 7 ACL surgeries, is not anything ideal to what we wanted, and it certainly affected our depth last year. We've made some changes to what we do, starting with the addition of our new strength coach, Jason Belkamp. Our new sports medicine director is Jess Judd. She's been outstanding. And then even myself, just looking at what led to those injuries last year and modifying practice, modifying maybe the days that we practice or the times we practice, so that we weren't allowing ourselves to leave ourselves vulnerable to injury. And as a result, we're going into the Wisconsin game with 0 injuries. Okay, 0 injuries outside of 2 incoming freshmen, which as a lot of times those are a result of predisposition and not having the opportunity to really train ahead of their first season in play. So, Pastor Ayers, keep throwing up those prayers, man. I appreciate you praying for us. I told him that before a couple events this year, and I mean that. We've been able to stay healthy, and I do feel very good about us not limping into the opener, but going in feeling strong. Last year at this point, we had 3 ACL surgeries already before the first game. And right now we're in a place where not one returning player is going to miss time going into the opener.
One guy I'm curious to know your expectations about is DeAndre Furby, just considering everything he's been through, 2 coaches, injuries. What are you looking for out of him this year?
Furby's played himself into a role, and he definitely is going to have a role. The running back job is going to really come down to when the opportunities are given, who is able to give us something more than just what the play was blocked for. You are a running back. You're not a get what the play was blocked for back. And we've challenged our running backs, and that's why we wanted to recruit dynamic players at that position to help us create some competition for Furby, create some competition for Trigg. Two great players. But the expectation right now for Furby is to carry over his improvements from last season, where he was tentative at times, to fall camp, where he's been running with good pad level, and he's been running vertically and taking on tacklers head on, and for him to be able to do that in games. And so that's the expectation. We're going to go in and play him. He's going to have a role, and we'll see. The game of football is pure, and if you take advantage of those opportunities, then you get more.
No matter how smooth the transition, there's always disruption when you have coaching changes. How big will continuity be this year and year two to improving on last year?
It's going to be huge. Continuity is never easy. When you look around the landscape of really college football, athletics in general, that first year with the new staff, when it's almost entirely a brand new staff and a brand new head coach, a lot of people call that first year zero, because year zero is kind of where you have to lay the foundation, of the house, and you have to lay that foundation, and in doing so, you're trying to build those relationships, but they're not really truly deep and genuine until you've been in their lives with consistency for some time. And so the expectations that we've laid out for our players are much more clearly understood, but also we understand where our roster is so much more going into game one than we did a year ago. We know where our strengths are, we know where our perceived weaknesses are, and that helps us be able to call the game on offense, defense, and special teams in a way that highlights our strengths and obviously neutralizes the perceived weaknesses.
Coach, the NFL recently enacted a new rule about head tackling. Does that same rule apply with the NCAA, and how do you feel about it?
Yes, what we're finding even in practice, when we go live scrimmage situations, it is very challenging to completely uninvolve your head in a tackle every time. But what we're also finding out is the way we teach tackle not just to our starting defensive players or starting special teams players. We teach tackle to offensive linemen, quarterbacks. We teach a proper way of tackling. And our way of tackling is to keep your head out of the tackle, to keep your head at a profile position, meaning glancing off the side, and to keep your eyes straight ahead. To not allow the crown of that helmet to be a part of the tackle. Now, there are situations where you might go in for a certain type of tackle, and then the ball carrier adjusts at the last second, and you leave yourself vulnerable. That is going to happen. And unfortunately, the game of football, fortunately, the game has cracked down on it, but there are a lot of big plays and big moments in games where the crown of the helmet was unintentional, and you could clearly see that it was unintentional. But we have to continue to work on keeping our helmet and the crown of the helmet out of the play. And it's just where we're going. And we pointed out in live scrimmage situations, what would have been a completely clean tackle 7 years ago, that's now, hey, you're going to be ejected for that tackle. And it is what it is. We can kick and scream about it all we want and call it, that we're playing a different game than we used to. But at the end of the day, there's also science that's backing what's going on with brain trauma and injuries in this sport. And so we want to be a part of the correction of that by teaching proper tackling techniques while not losing our physical play. Anybody else? Once again, I do appreciate your support, and go Tops.